A federal judge just brought Trump's trial to a complete standstill in a courtroom showdown that legal experts are calling the most dramatic procedural halt in modern American jurisprudence. Judge Kenneth Ramirez didn't just pause proceedings for a routine motion. He suspended the entire trial indefinitely after prosecutors presented evidence that 3 key witnesses had been contacted by individuals claiming to represent Trump's legal team, offering what the judge called, quote, substantial inducements to alter their testimony. And this isn't a temporary delay or a minor procedural hiccup. The judge cleared the courtroom of everyone except the attorneys, spent 47 minutes in chambers reviewing emergency filings, then returned to announce he was halting all proceedings pending a full investigation into witness tampering allegations that he described as deeply troubling and potentially criminal. When a federal judge uses terms like criminal misconduct in open court and suspends a trial indefinitely, you know something absolutely extraordinary has just happened. Hit that subscribe button right now because you won't want to miss any of the videos I release. So what triggered this unprecedented courtroom crisis? The halt came on January 18th during what was supposed to be routine witness preparation hearings in the federal election interference case. Prosecutors approached the bench at 10:23 a.m. Eastern Time with an emergency motion presenting sworn affidavits from 3 witnesses scheduled to testify this week, according to court filings that were immediately sealed but later obtained by multiple news organizations. All 3 witnesses reported being contacted within a 72-hour period by individuals who identified themselves as investigators working for Trump's defense team. The contacts allegedly included offers of financial compensation, suggestions about relocating to avoid subpoenas, and in one case, according to sources familiar with the affidavits, a direct offer of $150,000 to, quote, remember events differently than you told prosecutors. This isn't political spin or partisan accusation. These are sworn statements from witnesses under penalty of perjury presented to a federal judge who takes witness tampering so seriously that he immediately suspended the entire trial. Here's the full picture of what unfolded in that courtroom and why this represents a potential crisis that extends far beyond a single trial delay. Judge Ramirez, a George H.W. Bush appointee with 32 years on the federal bench and a reputation for measured temperament, visibly stiffened when lead prosecutor Margaret Chen began outlining the witness contact allegations. Court observers present in the gallery told reporters that the judge's demeanor changed instantly from routine procedural oversight to what one veteran court reporter described as controlled fury. He immediately ordered all spectators removed from the courtroom, a highly unusual step that signals the judge believes sensitive information about ongoing criminal conduct is about to be discussed. And for the next 47 minutes, only the attorneys, court reporter, and judge remained in the sealed courtroom reviewing the emergency filings. Smash that like button if this is making sense so far. Here's where the situation becomes absolutely explosive. When Judge Ramirez reconvened the public session at 11:34 a.m., his statement from the bench was unequivocal and devastating. According to the official court transcript, he said, "This court has reviewed sworn affidavits from 3 witnesses alleging contact by individuals claiming association with the defense in this matter. The allegations describe conduct that, if proven, would constitute serious federal crimes, including witness tampering under 18 U.S.C. 1512 and obstruction of justice under 18 U.S.C. 1503. I am therefore suspending all trial proceedings indefinitely pending a thorough investigation by appropriate authorities." The integrity of this trial and the judicial process itself depends on witnesses testifying truthfully without inducement, intimidation, or interference. A former federal prosecutor with 28 years of experience told MSNBC that in nearly 3 decades of practice, she had never witnessed a federal judge use such stark language to halt a trial based on witness tampering allegations. Let's break down why this is so legally catastrophic. Witness tampering is one of the most serious offenses in federal criminal law because it strikes at the foundation of the justice system itself. Under 18 U.S.C. 1512, attempting to influence a witness through offers of payment or other inducements carries a maximum penalty of 20 years in federal prison. Obstruction of justice under 18 U.S.C. 1503 can add another 10 years. These aren't process crimes or technical violations. These are felonies that federal judges and prosecutors take extraordinarily seriously because they threaten the entire framework of courtroom proceedings. When a judge halts a trial over tampering allegations, it signals he believes the evidence is substantial enough to potentially taint the entire proceeding. This isn't a precautionary pause. This is a judge concluding that continuing would compromise the integrity of the trial itself. Drop a comment right now if you saw this coming. I read every single one. Now here's what makes the allegations even more damaging. According to sources who reviewed the sealed affidavits, the three witnesses are not peripheral figures with minor testimony. These are individuals with direct knowledge of communications between Trump and state officials in December 2020 and early January 2021. One witness is a former White House aide who was present during phone calls with secretaries of state in contested states. Another is a state election official who received direct communications from Trump's team about certification delays. The third is a campaign attorney who participated in the alternate elector coordination meetings. Their testimony was expected to be central to the prosecution's case, providing direct evidence of Trump's personal involvement in pressuring state officials and coordinating alternative elector schemes. If someone attempted to alter this testimony through financial inducements, it represents an effort to neutralize the most damaging evidence against Trump. Here's the timeline that prosecutors presented to Judge Ramirez. According to legal sources familiar with the filings, on January 12th, the first witness and the former White House aide received a phone call from someone identifying himself as a private investigator hired by Trump's legal team. The caller allegedly said the defense team wanted to interview her about her recollection of events and mentioned that witnesses who cooperated with defense investigators were sometimes compensated for their time and inconvenience. The witness declined and immediately contacted prosecutors. On January 14th, the state election official reported receiving a visit at his home from two individuals who presented business cards identifying them as defense investigators. And according to his affidavit, they suggested he might want to consider relocating before trial because media attention could be disruptive to his family. And they were aware of opportunities in other states where he could continue his work with less scrutiny. He also declined and reported the contact. On January 15th, the campaign attorney received the most explicit approach, a direct phone call offering $150,000 in exchange for testimony that would contradict her previous statements to prosecutors, specifically regarding Trump's direct knowledge of alternate elector planning. She recorded the conversation and provided the recording to prosecutors. Subscribe immediately if you haven't yet. This content doesn't exist anywhere else. This pattern of escalating contact culminating in an explicit financial offer is exactly what federal witness tampering statutes were designed to prevent. But here's where it gets even more complicated and potentially devastating for Trump's defense. The prosecutor's emergency filing reportedly includes phone records, visitor logs, and financial transaction attempts that potentially link these contacts to individuals associated with Trump's legal team or political operation. According to Bloomberg law sources, the filing includes cell phone tower data showing the investigators' phones pinging near Trump properties in Florida on dates shortly before the witness contacts occurred. It includes business registration records showing the investigation firms listed on the business cards were incorporated just weeks before the contacts began. And it includes preliminary financial tracking showing wire transfer attempts from accounts linked to Trump-affiliated political action committees. This isn't speculative connection. This is documentary evidence potentially linking the witness contact campaign directly to Trump's orbit. Judge Ramirez's decision to halt the trial indefinitely rather than just pausing for a few days signals how seriously he views these allegations. In his statement from the bench, he announced he was referring the matter to the FBI for immediate investigation and was considering whether to appoint a special master to conduct an independent review of all defense team communications with potential witnesses. He also warned that if the investigation substantiates the tampering allegations, he would consider sanctions ranging from monetary penalties to referring attorneys for barred disciplinary proceedings to potentially holding individuals in criminal contempt. A legal ethics professor at Georgetown told CNN that a federal judge making these statements in open court represents the nuclear option in federal criminal procedure, reserved for situations where the judge believes the integrity of the entire proceeding is at stake. Let's put this in proper historical context because trial halts of this magnitude are extraordinarily rare. During the Watergate trials in the 1970s, proceedings continued despite extensive pre-trial publicity and political pressure. During the Clinton impeachment-related proceedings, trials moved forward despite intense partisan controversy, even in high-profile mob trials where witness intimidation was a constant concern. Judges typically address issues through protective orders and sequestration rather than complete trial suspension. A Fordham law professor who has studied federal trial procedure for 40 years told the New York Times that he could identify only 4 instances in modern federal court history where a judge completely halted a major trial based on witness tampering allegations, and all 4 cases resulted in additional criminal charges against the defendants or their associates. Don't go anywhere. The most explosive part is coming next. The legal implications of this halt extend far beyond the immediate trial delay. First, Judge Ramirez's referral to the FBI means that Trump and his associates now face a separate federal criminal investigation into witness tampering, completely independent of the underlying election interference case. Witness tampering charges carry severe penalties and are notoriously difficult to defend because they require prosecutors to prove only that someone attempted to influence testimony, not that they succeeded. The evidence threshold is lower and the penalties are substantial. If the FBI investigation confirms the allegations in the witness affidavits, Trump could face additional federal charges even before the current trial resumes. A former assistant U.S. attorney told Politico that witness tampering prosecutions have an extraordinarily high conviction rate because they typically involve clear documentary evidence like recorded phone calls, financial records, and contemporaneous witness reports. Exactly the kind of evidence prosecutors apparently have here. Second, the trial halt creates a cascading series of legal and political consequences. Every day the trial is suspended is another day of uncertainty, another news cycle dominated by allegations of criminal witness interference, another opportunity for prosecutors to strengthen their case with FBI investigative findings. The delay also means the trial will extend further into 2024, potentially running closer to the election cycle and creating exactly the kind of political-legal intersection that both sides wanted to avoid. Trump's team wanted a quick trial to put the matter behind him before campaign season intensified. Prosecutors wanted a verdict before political considerations could complicate jury selection and public perception. Now neither side gets what they wanted, and the dominant narrative becomes witness tampering allegations rather than the underlying election interference charges. Third, and perhaps most significant, this halt fundamentally changes the dynamics of Trump's legal defense strategy. His attorneys have consistently argued that the prosecution is politically motivated, that witnesses are unreliable, and that the entire case represents a weaponization of the justice system. Those arguments become exponentially harder to make when a Republican-appointed judge halts the trial because witnesses report being offered money to change their testimony by individuals linked to Trump's team. You cannot simultaneously claim you're the victim of a politicized prosecution while defending against allegations that your team tried to buy favorable testimony, the contradiction is insurmountable, and every political argument Trump's team has made about prosecutorial overreach collapses under the weight of witness tampering evidence. Do me a favor and slam that like button because it genuinely helps this video reach more people. But beyond the immediate legal ramifications, Judge Ramirez's decision creates an evidentiary record that will haunt this case through every stage of appeal. When a federal judge makes findings in open court that tampering allegations are deeply troubling and potentially criminal, that language becomes part of the permanent record. Appellate courts reviewing the case will see that the trial judge believed witness interference was serious enough to warrant complete suspension and FBI referral. That judicial finding, coming from a conservative Bush appointee with a 32-year reputation for fairness, will weigh heavily in any future appellate analysis of trial fairness and defendant conduct. So let's break down what happens next in this now suspended proceeding. The FBI has reportedly already begun its investigation, with agents interviewing the 3 witnesses who filed affidavits and reviewing the documentary evidence prosecutors submitted. Sources familiar with the investigation told ABC News that FBI investigators are treating this as a high-priority case, given the judicial referral and the high-profile nature of the underlying trial. The Bureau has assembled a team of agents specializing in public corruption and obstruction cases, and they are reportedly examining phone records, financial transactions, and communications between Trump's legal team and the individuals who contacted the witnesses. If the FBI determines there is probable cause to believe federal witness tampering statutes were violated, they can recommend additional criminal charges to the Department of Justice within weeks. Meanwhile, Judge Ramirez has scheduled a status conference for February 2nd to review the FBI's preliminary findings and determine whether to resume trial proceedings or continue the indefinite suspension. In his order suspending the trial, he made clear that resumption depends entirely on whether the investigation can ensure witness testimony integrity going forward. He wrote, "This court cannot in good conscience proceed with trial when witnesses have reported systematic attempts to influence their testimony through financial inducement. The constitutional right to a fair trial requires that witnesses testify based on their true recollection of events, not based on payments or promises from parties to the litigation." That language establishes an incredibly high bar for trial resumption. The judge is essentially saying he needs complete assurance that no witness has been compromised before he'll allow the trial to continue. Drop a comment below with your thoughts. I'm genuinely curious to see your perspective. The political fallout from this courtroom drama is already reverberating through Washington and the 2024 campaign trail. Republican primary opponents are seizing on the witness tampering allegations to argue that Trump's legal troubles represent a distraction the party cannot afford. A poll conducted January 19, 2021 by Quinnipiac found that 58% of Republican primary voters said they were concerned about allegations that Trump's team attempted to influence witnesses, and 41% said such allegations, if proven, would affect their willingness to support him in the general election. Democratic groups are already running digital ads highlighting Judge Ramirez's statement that the tampering allegations involve potentially criminal conduct, emphasizing that a Republican-appointed judge found the evidence serious enough to halt the entire trial. But beyond the immediate political and legal consequences, this trial halt raises fundamental questions about accountability in the American justice system. Can high-profile defendants use their resources to influence witness testimony through financial inducements? Judge Ramirez's suspension of the trial sends an unequivocal message: absolutely not. And attempting to do so will result in federal criminal investigation and potential additional charges. Can defense teams operate in ethical gray areas when contacting potential witnesses? Again, the judge's referral to the FBI and warning about potential sanctions makes clear that any contact that even appears to offer inducements for favorable testimony will be treated as potential criminal conduct. These aren't academic questions. They're live issues that Judge Ramirez is addressing through the most severe procedural remedy available to a trial judge. This situation is causing chaos within what remains of Trump's legal team. According to sources who spoke to Rolling Stone, emergency meetings have been held daily since the trial halt, with attorneys trying to determine who authorized the witness contacts and whether they can establish that any such contacts were made by unauthorized individuals rather than official defense representatives. Some team members are reportedly demanding internal investigations to identify who commissioned the private investigators and who approved any witness contact strategy. Others are pushing for public statements completely disavowing the contacts and claiming they were made by rogue actors without authorization. The problem with both approaches is that Judge Ramirez and the FBI will be examining phone records, financial transactions, and communication patterns that will likely reveal exactly who commissioned and paid for the witness contact campaign. Stay with me. What comes next will completely change how you view the situation. The 3 witnesses who reported the tampering attempts are now under federal protection. According to Justice Department sources, U.S. Marshals have been assigned to provide security and ensure no further contact attempts occur before they testify. This level of protection is typically reserved for witnesses in organized crime cases or situations where there's credible evidence of witness intimidation, and the fact that a federal judge and the FBI deem protective custody necessary for witnesses in a political case signals just how seriously authorities are treating the tampering allegations. These are precautionary measures. These are responses to what investigators believe is a genuine threat to witness safety and testimony integrity. Here's what makes Judge Ramirez's judicial philosophy and background so important to understanding this ruling. He was appointed to the federal bench by George H.W. Bush in 1991, during a period when Republican judicial appointments emphasized strict adherence to procedural regularity and judicial restraint. He's written opinions defending executive authority in national security matters, supporting law enforcement discretion in criminal investigations, and emphasizing the importance of finality in criminal proceedings. He is not known as an activist judge or someone who halts trials lightly. His reputation over 32 years has been for careful adherence to procedure and reluctance to inject judicial authority into proceedings unless absolutely necessary, which makes his decision to suspend this trial all the more remarkable. When a judge with this conservative judicial philosophy concludes that witness tampering allegations are serious enough to halt an entire trial and refer the matter for federal criminal investigation, it carries extraordinary weight. Legal scholars are already calling this the Ramirez standard for trial suspension based on witness tampering. The framework he established in his bench statement provides clear guidance for when trial halts are appropriate. When multiple witnesses report systematic contact attempts, when those contacts involve financial inducements or other benefits, when there's documentary evidence linking the contacts to trial participants, and when continuing the trial would compromise the fundamental integrity of witness testimony. This 4-part standard is more specific and demanding than previous judicial approaches to witness tampering allegations, and it's likely to be cited by judges across the country facing similar issues. A Yale law professor told the Washington Post that Judge Ramirez has created a coherent framework for addressing witness tampering in high-profile cases that balances the defendant's right to a speedy trial against the court's obligation to ensure testimony integrity. If this blows your mind, hit that like button right now. Here's where we stand. A federal trial has been indefinitely suspended because a judge concluded that witness tampering allegations were serious enough to compromise the entire proceeding. 3 witnesses are under federal protection after reporting systematic attempts to influence their testimony through financial offers. The FBI has launched a criminal investigation that could result in additional federal charges for witness tampering and obstruction. Trump's legal team is in crisis, trying to determine who authorized the witness contacts and how to respond to allegations that threaten to add new criminal charges to an already devastating case. And the political ramifications are cascading through the 2024 campaign as Republican voters grapple with witness tampering allegations deemed credible by a Republican-appointed federal judge. This isn't just another legal complication in a series of challenges. This is a potential inflection point where a trial judge concluded that the defendant's team had so compromised witness testimony integrity that continuing would make a fair trial impossible. When Republican-appointed judges start suspending trials and referring matters to the FBI because witnesses report being offered money to change their testimony, we've entered genuinely unprecedented legal territory. The implications extend far beyond Trump's immediate legal situation to questions about how the justice system handles powerful defendants who have the resources to potentially influence witnesses through financial inducements. Keep a close eye on this story because the February 2nd status conference could determine whether this trial ever resumes or whether the tampering allegations fundamentally derail the entire proceeding. Judge Ramirez has made clear he will not restart the trial unless the FBI investigation provides assurance that witness testimony can proceed without compromise. That's an extraordinarily high bar that may prove impossible to meet if the investigation substantiates the affidavit allegations, and if the FBI recommends additional charges for witness tampering, Trump could face a separate prosecution running parallel to the election interference case, creating a legal nightmare scenario with multiple federal trials proceeding simultaneously. Before we go any further, smash that subscribe button so you never miss content like this. Here's where things stand right now, and a federal judge has halted a trial indefinitely because witnesses reported being offered substantial payments to alter their testimony. The FBI is investigating potential federal crimes, including witness tampering and obstruction of justice. 3 witnesses are under federal protection. Trump's legal team is scrambling to respond to allegations that threaten additional criminal charges, and the entire 2024 political landscape is shifting as Republican voters confront witness tampering allegations validated by a conservative federal judge. This isn't speculation or partisan interpretation. This is a federal judge's sworn finding that tampering allegations are credible enough to suspend a trial and warrant criminal investigation. The evidence is mounting. The judicial response is unprecedented. The FBI investigation is active, and the constitutional crisis is deepening. What happens when a former president's trial is halted because witnesses report systematic attempts to buy favorable testimony? We're about to find out. The stakes have never been higher, the allegations have never been more serious, and the moment of legal accountability has never been more uncertain. The trial is suspended, the investigation is ongoing, and American democracy is watching to see whether witness tampering allegations against a former president will result in additional criminal charges or fundamental trial collapse. Pause for a second and hit that like button if you're finding value in this coverage.